Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of AI Insiders with AI Marketers Guild. I'm Dave Berkowitz and thrilled to get to host someone I've been eager to have on here, Thomas from Otterly.ai. I've been using their service for GEO, generative engine optimization, or all kinds of words for it. I don't know if we've settled on the nomenclature yet. Maybe Thomas can answer that question once and for all and just put us all out of our misery. But there's so much now for my own projects, for clients, where just like trying to see how you're ranking in AI, and then ultimately, what do you do about it? What's different with that in SEO? I've got millions of questions. I'd imagine a lot of you do too, and Thomas is here to at least answer them best as he can. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you, David. Thanks so much for the intro. And hi, everybody. I'm Thomas, calling in all the way from Austria, Europe, Vienna today. Hope everybody's having a good morning, lovely lunchtime. I'd love to learn more from you as well. So I'll try to answer all the million questions that everybody has in today's call. Definitely, let's get to it. But also curious to hear your experiences, right? So I also have a few questions for all of you today.
Great.
But yeah, happy to dive into the topic in a few moments.
Yeah, well, feel free to kick things off and share a few thoughts. And yeah, as folks here, if you haven't been to many of these or this is your first time, then we welcome making these very interactive. So.
Amazing. So maybe first things first. Let me know in the chat where's everybody calling in from. So as mentioned, I'm Team Europe. I'm currently based in Vienna, Austria. It's late afternoon my end, so my coffee already stopped. So I'm on the water right now. But let me know where are you calling from? Are you a coffee, tea person? What's your routine? I'd love to meet and hear some of your routines as we kick it off. Hi, Sandra. Amazing. I'm really bad with multitasking, but I'll still try my best and start sharing my screen right now to jump right into the whole topic.
And I'm Team Tea here. I've not had a full cup of coffee in my life, so that is one of my fun facts.
So that's a good fun fact. I probably have way too much coffee every single day, but that's another story. Maybe you can guys give me a quick visual or audio feedback if you can see my screen. If you can see my slide deck.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, I mean, David and I we've been chatting a bit over the last few days and weeks, really, and I thought a bit about the topic, right? AI search, and what can I bring to you today in regards to the state of AI search, right? I'm sure we have many marketing leaders in this call today. Who've been tinkering around this big question, what's going on ChatGPT, right? And we titled this session today, The State of AI Search 2025, How to Get Found in a Bot-First World. But if I would come up with a subtitle for that, I probably would call it, Hey ChatGPT, where did my traffic go in 2025, right? And I think the reason I would love to touch on this topic is, I think many marketing teams I've been working with in the last few weeks and months really are confronted with difficult times, right? Difficult times where we might be losing traffic, organic traffic from Google. We might be looking at these new era of SEO. David mentioned, is it GEO? Is it just SEO? How do we call this thing even in the first place, right? It's a big topic in many boardroom conversations. What I'll try in today's call, and I'll try to make it interactive, right? And I'd love to come to all of your questions, is to provide a few answers to a few myths that are out there when it comes to AI search visibility, and what we as brands, what we as marketing teams can do to tackle that topic. Real quick, as a quick intro on myself, I'm Thomas. I'm now the CEO and one of the co-founders at Otterly.ai. Otterly.ai is a startup in the AI search monitoring space. And with that said, my background really is in B2B SaaS marketing. So for the last 12 years, I've worked for startups, scale-ups, larger enterprises, always in the B2B software as a service space. And the whole reason why we actually started this product in the first place goes back to my last marketing role, where I led a marketing team of 30 people as VP marketing at a company called Storyblock. Storyblock is a content management system. And about 1.5, 2 years ago, I kind of realized that I've been spending millions. So we as a marketing team, we invested millions in the Google ad program every single year. I had dedicated team members just doing SEO, just doing content. I would work with agencies in Europe, in the US to basically improve our organic performance, because it was really the main driver of our product, of our revenue stream. And I kind of realized that while I've been so obsessed with Google, I had really no clue what's going on ChatGPT. And this thought kind of made me a bit nervous 2 years ago to not know what's going on there. And ultimately, it made me build this product, made me build and start this business in the first place. This is not about Otterly.ai, but just to set the scene, what we do, we are an AI search monitoring and optimization platform. So right now, we help about 5,000 marketing and SEO professionals understand AI search, analyze AI search, and optimize for higher brand visibility and higher website visibility. At the end of the day, it's always about, are we getting mentioned as a brand on those new channels? Is our content, is our website being picked up? We have lots of data. I will also show you some data today in this presentation. As we support Google AI Overviews, Perplexity, ChatGPT, AI Mode is now getting a big thing, Gemini and Microsoft Copilot. So when I speak about AI search engines, I will refer to those 6 AI search engines. Obviously, there are others out there. There's Grok, there's Claude, etc., etc. Also have some data points there. But it's primarily, and please put in the chat, I'd love to hear that from you. I would make the bold statement, it's primarily these days about Google and ChatGPT. If you see that differently, write a quick comment in the chat, which AI search engine is important for you and your business. But let's zoom out, right? Why are we talking today about AI search? Why does it matter? Why should we care, right? Why do we care? I mentioned this in the intro already a bit, right? And it's probably not new news to you that organic traffic is really hard these days to acquire in the first place, right? So many of us probably see either a decline in organic traffic or at least very stagnating organic traffic statistics, especially top of funnel, mid of funnel type search queries most often lead to a Google AI overview these days. Based on our own data that we have collected, we, for example, see right now that about 1/3 of all Google search queries in the United States lead to a Google AI overview. The implication is quite simple, right? With an AI overview being in place, click-through rates are much lower, organic rankings is being pushed down, and ultimately, we do get less traffic to our websites. So in one way, Google is sending less organic traffic these days to our websites. Why did Google introduce AI overview in the first place, right? Why is AI mode now a thing? At the end of the day, Google is reacting to this trend of conversational search experiences, AI search experiences, such as ChatGPT, Perplexity, and others. ChatGPT is now amongst the top websites in the world. Everybody uses it. I think I have prepared here a couple of latest up-to-date statistics to put things also a bit in perspective. Google right now processes about 15 billion search queries every single day. So there are 15 billion search queries on Google AI Mode, Gemini, AI Overview, not Gemini, AI Overviews and AI Mode included. According to the latest numbers from OpenAI, there are about 2.5 million queries every single day on ChatGPT. So as we can see here, ChatGPT is catching up quite quickly. But I think the good news for Google is it's not replacing Google, right? It's expanding the search experience for us as consumers. So in addition to Google, we're now using those new AI search channels as well. Depending on, pick your favorite tool, right? You see Gemini getting 46 million queries every single day. Microsoft Copilot is a thing. DeepSeek, Perplexity, Grok, Claude. You see the numbers there. Again, let me know in the chat which AI service you rely on the most. But ultimately, it can be said search is expanding beyond Google and is getting more diversified. What does this mean really for us as website providers, as owners, right? Well, in the old days, in the old SEO days, if you would call it like this, we've been optimizing for Google, right? We've been optimizing for Google because we directly knew, okay, if we do that, we will receive traffic, we'll receive people coming to our websites. The reality now is it is more diversified on the search channels, but it's no longer only humans coming to our websites, it's also robots, agents browsing our websites, looking for information. And ultimately, in some way, we have to rework our personas that we target, because most likely we already have agents coming to our websites as well who consume content, who take actions based on those content pieces.
And can I just ask one quick question while you talk about all the players out there? I mean, just since you're based in Europe and we don't always have that perspective, is Mistral like on the radar for folks right now? Do you see that as an up and comer?
I mean, in broader context, no, not really. I mean, and we actually did some research in APAC because we were curious. Some of our customers were curious to know which AI search engines are being used in APAC. To be very honest, the reality is, at least in Europe, it is like this, right? It's ChatGPT everywhere. People use ChatGPT. That's the primary search engine. Yes, Mistral is from France. It is a local player, but I mean, it's not at that scale. I don't even know the statistics. I haven't looked it up, but it's probably quite far away even from Claude. And Claude is quite far away from ChatGPT if you look at those statistics here.
Yeah, it's just interesting that DeepSeek being the only player outside of the US to make a dent.
Yeah, that's true. I was actually very surprised, to be honest, when I looked at the APAC statistics, because I would have thought that there are much more local players in APAC as well. I'll drop the link in the chat where you can see the usage. But basically, besides China has dedicated their own models. But basically, besides China, every other country, ChatGPT ranks on top as the number one AI search experience. So I just posted the link there with some APAC statistics in there.
Great, thanks.
Cool. Yeah, any time. So I mean, one, as said, right, it's getting more diversified. We're looking now at call it search everywhere optimization. No, it's no longer just about Google, and it's no longer just about us humans browsing websites, but we also have to recognize those agents. Why? Because ultimately, and this is already possible today, right? As marketing teams, we've always been so focused on the user journey, right? This traditional journey, bringing people from awareness to consideration to purchase to retention to advocacy. And in a traditional search setup, right, we've been optimizing for traffic, right? We've been optimizing, trying to bring people to our website, and from there on, retarget them, convert them into hopefully paid customers, paid subscribers. With AI search now being a thing, a big part of that traffic is now being taken away by the search engines directly natively. Because the reality is, ChatGPT is not a search engine, it's an answer engine. I don't go to ChatGPT to then click on a link and check out all the 10 different websites. I'll find my answers there directly. I'll find, if I'm looking for running shoes, I'm a runner, I'm training for the next half marathon. If I'm looking for new running shoes, I'll basically prompt ChatGPT with some questions to get some first product recommendations. Yes, from there on, I might go look up those brands on Google and on their websites, but then I'm already later down that road. So for us as brands, it's very important to also understand what's going on top of funnel on those new search channels and experiences. So put it simply, yes, search is undergoing some fundamental change. So the big question is, okay, what do we do about it? Is it just SEO? Is it generative engine optimization? What's really the big difference there? And disclaimer, I don't want to be the person deciding the abbreviation. I'm not a big fan of buzzword bingos. I don't care really at the end of the day, but I want to show you how the tactics work out. So let's talk first about some myths. What are some myths? What are some statements that we all see on LinkedIn, that we all see on the internet out there when it comes to, let's call it GEO? I think one of the first myths that I've heard and I've seen is, well, we are already number one on Google, right? We're the first website showing up on Google. Why should we do even something? Why should we even care, right? It's the same thing for AI search engines. The reality is it's not, right? The reality is being number one on Google as a website doesn't mean you're most natural, the number one on those new AI search channels. You can see here on the right-hand side actually a screenshot from a SEMrush study where they looked at the correlation between the top 10 Google search rankings and AI citations. And if you look at that, yes, there is a correlation of 53% for AI mode, 85% on Google AI overviews, and only 44% on ChatGPT, meaning let's say half of all the top 10 entry points on the top 10 Google search rankings will also make it into ChatGPT citations. But put it differently, 50% are citations, websites that are not even part of the top 10 Google rankings. So most naturally, being number one on Google, one, doesn't secure you to also be number one on ChatGPT or be cited at all on ChatGPT. And on the flip side, there might be even a chance that if you're not in the top 10 Google rankings, but you still have certain factors in place, some good content on site, you might show up on ChatGPT. So myth number one. Myth number two is, okay, is SEO now dead? Is Google being killed by ChatGPT? Put it differently, is AI search killing SEO? No, it's not. SEO is definitely not dead. I would say it's evolving. Search is getting more diversified, as mentioned earlier. And again, here's another interesting data point. You might have seen this chart actually going around LinkedIn. And I think it's a really powerful chart because it shows you, and it might be a small chart here on this screen, but it basically shows you that if people interact with ChatGPT, so that's the greenish color here at the bottom, if there's an interaction on ChatGPT, also the engagement goes up on Google. So search is expanding. I'll start, as said earlier, my search experience on ChatGPT. I'm going to ask, give me the top 5 running shoe recommendations for my next half marathon. I probably get a couple of product recommendations. I'll then go to Google and continue the search journey there. So I think that chart is pretty clearly showing that Google is not dead, and search is not, AI search is not killing SEO in that sense, but expanding the user journey. Myth number 3, well, can you even influence AI search answers, right? Can you even influence who's showing up, who gets mentioned or whatnot? The reality is, yes, I've seen it over and over again. You can optimize for brand mentions and website citations, and how it works, I'll come to that in a moment. And some of you might be thinking, well, it's only 1% of website traffic, right? Based on your web analytics, you might see 1% of your total traffic coming in from ChatGPT, right? It's only 1% of total traffic coming in from ChatGPT. Why should I even care? Why should I get started? The reality is, 1% of total traffic doesn't mean your audience is not using ChatGPT, right? It just means that consumer behavior is different, right? People don't go to ChatGPT and then click on all the links. So measuring success based on traffic, referral traffic, is only giving you a small piece of the cake, a small picture into the real user journey. And it's never too late to get on board with AI search. So adopting this new reality is something I would at least recommend everybody to look into, be it B2B, B2C. One of the typical questions I've been getting, is it more of a thing for B2B versus B2C use cases? Think about your own use case, right? Even in B2B, I've seen people going to ChatGPT, prompting whole RFPs, looking for feature comparison, best product for XYZ type use cases. So it's basically everywhere. So let's talk briefly about how AI search works, right? Because in one way, those AI search engines, if we think about ChatGPT, Google's AI mode now, at the end of the day, it's always a combination of two things. What do I mean? One, ChatGPT and Google utilize their LLM models, right? So AI mode is being powered by Gemini, a custom Gemini version, as Google calls it. ChatGPT is powered by the different LLM models of OpenAI, right? So when we want to optimize for AI search and thus getting mentioned on AI search, one of the first questions that we need to ask ourselves, do we want to optimize for the LLM models to pick us up, which is more of a long-term shot, right? I mean, there's knowledge cutoff and those type of things are a thing. Or do we want to optimize for citations, right? The reason why you'll find website citations within Google's AI mode or within ChatGPT is not the LLM model per se, but it's the web search capabilities those platforms now have. OpenAI introduced web search last year in October, November, and since then it became the most used tool, the most used icon in the ChatGPT interface. And the reason why we get referral traffic, the reason why our content is being picked up is because of the web search capabilities of ChatGPT. So how do we measure success now, right? And with all those myths in mind, if you're still on the boat, well, I care about this. I wanna optimize. Before we talk about the optimization potentials, let's talk about KPIs and how we can measure success. Because the reality is, this Google funnel, we're gonna measure impressions, clicks, traffic, conversions, doesn't work. It doesn't work on AI search, where it's more about brand mentions, brand influence. Are we getting mentioned as a brand? What's our share of voice? Those are I would say, the most typical, simplest brand KPIs you can start tracking today on ChatGPT. And the second factor is website citations. So it's no longer about traffic. It's about how is our website getting cited? Who is getting cited on AI search? So in one way, we have to forget those old website funnel, those old metrics, and we have to move to a more brand-focused measurement first. And then it's more about, citations, references. Are we used as a source of information? So let's get to work. How do we now improve our brand and website visibility on AI search? What can we do about it? As said, I don't care about buzzwords. Let's just call it, for the sake of this presentation, GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. What can we do about it? The first thing I want to show you is this pie chart where we analyzed a really big data set of websites, because I wanted to understand which websites do get cited. So we're talking about the website citations. Which websites get cited by ChatGPT, Perplexity, and those AI search channels? And I think the chart is really nice because it shows us a couple of things. One, it shows us that our brand websites, our corporate websites, are still very much relevant. 36% of all website citations come from corporate websites. So it's us as businesses, us as brands getting cited, and our content is still very much relevant for ChatGPT here as well. We'll talk more about the on-page signals in a moment, but I think first the good news is our websites are still getting cited on ChatGPT and the iSearch. But then there's a second big piece here, 29% news and media. So lots of publisher sites. I mean, OpenAI by now has big deals with all the big publishers of the world, but think about your trade media. Think about your local media, your regional media. Think about the influencers and bloggers in your space, in your market category. There's a big tendency, I would say, especially on ChatGPT, towards editorial news and media content. Content freshness matters, I would say, for ChatGPT more than for Google. While on Google, we all have learned about domain authority and how important it is to build up our domain authority to have a strong domain that is a trust signal to Google. I would say that's less of a thing for ChatGPT. So we also see a tendency towards smaller websites with less domain authority outranking bigger websites if they have a strong content game, if they have a strong media game going on here. And the third pie chart here, forums and community, right? 19.2%. I know you probably have seen all the Reddit buzz and all the Reddit conversations on the internet. What I can say based on our data, comparing organic visibility and chat visibility on ChatGPT, Reddit is huge on Google. Don't get me wrong, but it's even bigger on ChatGPT. Reddit, based on our data, is the most cited website in the world, not only in the US, in many, many more countries of the world as well, both in Europe, in APAC, in Asia Pacific. So Reddit is big. Reddit is super big on ChatGPT, but it's not only Reddit. You might say, well, yeah, it's Reddit, forum community. You could have put here Reddit as a solo website. True, but also not true, because it's in general forums and communities. So you might work in an industry, in a niche where there's some other local trade communities. Some of our customers have realized when analyzing the website citations in their accounts that they suddenly see old forums and communities where people discuss about really niche topics where the content is 10 years old, but suddenly it got picked up by ChatGPT and it was literally invisible on Google. So again, there's this tendency, I would say, that lots of those user-generated content pieces is being picked up by ChatGPT and other AI search engines. And at this point, without knowing too much about everybody's industry, I would make the bold statement that in every industry, in your industry, we're going to see Reddit citations as well. Do we know? I already see this question in the chat from Sarah. Do we know why Reddit is cited? Is so often cited? Well, I think I would make 2 points. One, Reddit was used to train OpenAI's model, various models. This is public information from OpenAI. I can also send you a link afterwards where you see that OpenAI used Reddit threads with more than 2 comma upvotes. So I'm not big into Reddit, but they explicitly used Reddit threads with more than 2 comma upvotes to basically train their models. I think by now they also have a deal with Reddit. Reddit also has a deal with Google, as called out by Earl here. And at the end of the day, if the way ChatGPT works, it is, I think, is particularly looking for an intent match, right? I mean, if we think in prompt, right? As a user, I go to ChatGPT, I'm looking for a particular prompt, certain search query. From a semantic relevancy engineering perspective, I think a lot of good answers are actually found in those Reddit threads. So I think the reason why ChatGPT is citing Reddit so often is because it is trying to match the user intent of me having a certain prompt with good relevant content, and I think that's really the case in some of those situations. But yeah, I can send you the whole AI search study with more insights. I just want to use that. Also, if there's one takeaway for you as a marketer from this call today, then I hope it's this one. Please do get those 3 things right in order for you to get cited or even have the chance of getting cited on AI search. These are 3, I would say, housekeeping factors that might hinder you right now or might hinder your website from getting cited. 1, the first question is, and it might sound like 3 simple things, but they're very important. 1, check your CDN and cloud hosting setting. So the big question is your CDN, is your hosting provider allowing or blocking AI bots? When you use Cloudflare, there's a little toggle where you can turn off and turn this on. They introduced this, I think, a few months ago. But there are also web hosters and CDN providers out there that do not tell you that. So I was speaking to marketing teams who told me they didn't know, right? They had no clue, and they were wondering, why is our website not getting cited and referenced on ChatGPT? They have good content on there. They've done everything right from an on-page perspective, but they were not visible as a website. And then they were talking to their hoster, and the hoster basically told them, well, by default, we're blocking all AI crawlers because they consume so much energy and so much traffic for us. So if there's one takeaway, please check this with your CDN hosting provider. The second factor, robots.txt file. Do you even explicitly allow or disallow access of certain bots to your website? Yes, big websites out there do block certain crawlers. I would also double check that. And the last thing really is, OpenAI crawlers still struggle a bit with dynamic content, JavaScript. So one of the big questions I'm asking our marketing teams is, how do you generate your content? Is it statically generated? Does content sit behind lots of JavaScript embeds, making it potentially invisible for AI crawlers? So dynamic versus static content checks. I'll also link here a couple of tools where you can do that, but it's very basic stuff. Please do check that. Also, this is something you can screenshot or you can look at later on as well. I listed here what I believe are the most important AI crawlers from OpenAI, from Perplexity and Anthropic. Because the reality is there's not one OpenAI bot or crawler. There are 3 different ones. The first one, GPT bot, is actually used for the training model, for the training of the models, right? So if you don't want your content to be part of the training data set of OpenAI, you could generally block the GPT bot from accessing your website. But if you allow the OIE search bot, which is used to trigger web search results when I, as a user, go to ChatGPT, you still have a chance of getting cited. And yeah, I don't want to go into the details, but check out the bot names later on. It's helpful when you want to make the decision, do we want to be part of the training data set or not? So you can exclude that from your list, but you can still include the search bots, for example. So what are the 3 steps for higher brand visibility? Let's quickly go through that because I know I've been talking a lot and I also want to hear your questions and answers a bit. It all starts with the user journey, right? And if we again think about the user journey on ChatGPT, it's no longer about keywords, right? We don't go to ChatGPT and enter keywords as consumers. We have a prompt-based approach, right? And I'm a big believer that we as marketers, we as brands need to define those prompts, those topics in the first place we want to optimize for. It's not an easy undertaking in a way because OpenAI has no Google Search Console. So we all love Google because it's giving us lots of data points, right? But the reality is there's no Google Search Console for OpenAI right now. So we need to find and get creative on how we identify relevant prompts we want to track in the first place. Then, obviously, we want to create a baseline of our current brand and website performance. Last but not least, we're going to start with some geotactics. If you're interested in finding relevant prompts, we have this article here on how to find real prompts from real users. There are really some hidden gems in there. I won't spend too much time on this one, but check out this article. It will give you some ideas on where you find relevant prompts for your industry, for your niche. Obviously, when it comes to monitoring your brand visibility, I don't recommend you to do it manually, right? You can do it manually for sure as well to manually check. But when you do manual checks, keep in mind there are certain personalization factors, right? There's a memory rock on ChatGPT and other things that ChatGPT knows about you as a person. So you will never get an objective, neutral AI response. Our goal with our monitoring solution is to provide you with those objective, neutral responses. You can try us. We have a free trial, but you can also try other ones as well. So then step number 3, let's start our geo playbook, right? And the geo playbook, I think, is quite simple. It's about on-page. It's about on-page content. We spoke about crawlability earlier. Are we even indexable, crawlable for those crawlers? It's about content optimization. Without going into too much detail, I would just mention 3 things. Analyze your content from a chunking perspective. There are tokenizers. The way ChatGPT works is it basically chunks your content in different pieces. So it's a whole lot about that. It's a whole lot about the content structure, the schema, structured data principles. From an earned media perspective, we already saw earlier, right? A lot of the citations come from news and media. So you might think that big brands have kind of head start here. Yes, they do. So if you've done good PR work, if you made sure that you're basically found as a brand, recognizable as a brand on the internet, let's say, I'm sure you have a solid AI search presence as well. Your brand is mentioned there. But what everybody can do is we can all work on our media outreach play. We can all create unique stories that are unique to us and pitch that to those influencers, to those big and small media outlets. we can all undergo a Wikipedia strategy. Wikipedia is also cited quite often on ChatGPT and those platforms. So I know it's a bit more tricky to get your own Wikipedia page, but it's worth an undertaking eventually. And last but not least, we need to spend time on Reddit. We need to crack Reddit. We need to see how we can activate our community in those relevant Reddit threads. I want to pause here because this was way too long of me speaking, and I was not able to catch up with all the comments in the chat. So I would pause here to see if anyone has any questions, and happy to enter the Q&A.
Yeah, who's having we answer here? Because a lot of folks are doing a great job answering each other here. So
amazing.
Who's got one directly for Thomas that he can elaborate on? Oh, there was a request to show step 1 again, and also a question if you'll be able to share the slides after.
100% sharing the slides after. Step 1 in regards to finding relevant prompts was that the topic, David?
I thought it might have been those the 3 steps with making sure that you've enabled access to the crawlers and things like that. But
this one.
Oh wait, here, let's do the part of the last 3 steps here. Just
so the last. So first one, step 1.
The first step in your GR playbook. That one.
Sorry, say again.
The first step in your GR playbook.
Yeah.
Here. The on-page stuff. So the on-page stuff is, as quite simple. So to summarize, 1, we need to check if our website is technically crawlable. We need to check in with our CDN provider. We need to check our robots.txt file. We need to make those decisions. And I would recommend you to check the ratio on dynamic versus static content generation that goes on your website. Especially if you work in e-commerce. I've seen lots of e-commerce storefronts and online shops where basically category pages, product pages are invisible for OpenAI crawlers because these sit behind embeds and certain dynamically created listicles. So if you have lots of that stuff going on your website, yeah, I would double check that. That's one. The second one, content optimization. Without going too much into detail, what you'll also find in the slide deck here, which I haven't shown you, is my GeoStack. And in this GeoStack, you'll find a couple of, as you can see here, labeled content optimizing tools. One is the OpenAI tokenizer, where you can add basically a paragraph, and it is broken down into tokens. Here's a custom GPT, which actually I didn't build. Full kudos goes to one of our customers who built this custom GPT that analyzes any text, any URL, and will give you certain chunking recommendations on how you should chunk your website content to be better indexable on ChatGPT. And the last one here is a relevancy doctor tool from iPullRank. You might have heard about iPullRank, an agency, where again you basically enter a prompt or a URL, and it will basically analyze this URL or based on the prompt, and will semantically chunk and analyze that URL. It's a really useful tool to actually see how relevant certain paragraphs are in your text for those specific user prompts. So when I mentioned real brief earlier, content optimization, check out those 3 tools. They will help absolutely come in handy. I've been using them daily to optimize our own content. Hope this answered the question. I see some hand raised. So
yeah, Randall, you want to go next?
Yeah. So first, just thank you for the presentation. This is very informative. I want to lead into a little bit of the sources that AI use when they're doing a web search to answer a question. So, for example, I was just looking up an old project of mine where I worked on Colgate and helped them develop their oral care center, which is the largest collection of oral health articles and content out there. But it's not showing up in the searches, even though there's a huge kind of related body of work under that domain. And instead, what I am seeing is a little bit of overlap between Google and Perplexity, but wildly, they're not very overlappy much. And this huge body of content that is really directly related to oral health is just not showing up in either of those places. I'm kind of curious your take on why that is, especially given that one of the steps that Perplexity does when you put in a query is it rephrases your query into a bunch of other queries.
Yeah. So, I mean, a great question. And I've definitely seen that in some examples where basically our content was really ranking high, top notch on Google, but literally not visible on ChatGPT. The short answer is, I don't know exactly, but I would recommend you to go through the following steps, what you can do and check. One question is, how is that content being loaded into your website, into the front end? Is it dynamically inserted, or is it basically proper good HTML structure, or is there lots of JavaScript on the side? So I would check the ratio of dynamic versus static content first. Second, maybe we do have an issue with not allowing certain AI crawlers to our website or to particular parts of our website. Sometimes we don't know that because our CDN providers block that. So again, that's kind of the housekeeping part. If those things are in place, I would open up. What I would do, and I saw someone asking about this custom GPT as well. I would open up this custom GPT here. Let me pull that link in the chat. This is a community. As said, one of our customers built this. Paste in your URLs, and it will tell you how good you are from a chunking perspective. Do you have proper content chunks that are recognizable for ChatGPT, for example? So that's the second thing I would do. And the third thing I would do is I would do this relevancy scan, this semantic relevancy scan with, for example, this tool from iPullRank that will also semantically analyze your content and will basically show you how close your content is with the respective search queries. And you can basically compare that with the URLs that you see ranking quite well on ChatGPT, and you probably see better correlation there as well. So those are the 4 steps I would now go through in order to answer your question on why is our content not being picked up by ChatGPT.
So is there, just going to build on that a little bit, is there amount of volume around a topic that's useful, or do you really want to be super optimized for the trends in queries that you're coming in? And so if we have 1,000 articles all on oral health, but they're kind of not really being picked up in a semantic way for the search queries, then maybe we need to look at articles that are, or content that is directly related to the search queries coming in, because the AI is still not very good at connecting those dots. Does that make sense?
I think, it
gets into the content strategy a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, where I've seen from a correlation perspective, I would say backlinking does matter less to ChatGPT, right? So those interlinking strategies, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would worry more about, is ChatGPT recognizing this specific content and how this specific content should match a certain user intent? And it kind of goes back to, okay, what are the user intents and how can we build those topic clusters? It doesn't necessarily need to be, and I'm making this up, right? Because I got this question also today. If you think about all of those FAQ elements, right? You have content pieces that cover all the different FAQs, and should that all sit under one URL? Should that sit each single FAQ question on a particular URL? The short answer is it doesn't really matter, I would say, if that's under one URL or if you have multiple URLs interlinking with each other. That should not be an issue for ChatGPT. But I'm not fully sure, Randall, if I now answered your question.
No, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Karen?
Yes, I have a couple of concerns and questions. Number one, in my experience, and I have a RAG solution, and I see that a lot, you can ask the same question even in ChatGPT twice, and you're going to get two different answers. And in my RAG solution, for example, I may have a lot of similar content, but why it picks what it picks is a mystery to me. So what's the answer on that? I mean, in search, usually when you rank high, you're gonna show up all the time. Here, it may answer differently in the same session, especially if you're in the same session, it's not going to generate the same answer consistently. Is that your experience as well?
So I would say one or two things. One, that's exactly why I would not recommend anyone to do a manual approach of monitoring, right? Because it will be heavily biased by your sessions and what is stored about you and the personalization factors that go into ChatGPT. So that's one. Even if we take away those personalization factors, right? Memory rack, history, location, and whatnot. We've done lots of research. We even teamed up with a university here in Europe to do research on exactly that question. Same query, same prompt, executed 100 times, 1,000 times. What comes back, right? And it's interesting because yes, there is variation there, right? There's variation in form of the text output. But when you think about and when you look at the brands who get mentioned, when you look at the websites that get cited, if you do the same query 10 times, 100 times over and over again, you'll get a significant statistically relevant data set there to see, okay, out of 100 queries, how often am I getting mentioned? Maybe I'm getting mentioned 90 times, 95 times. Maybe I'm only getting mentioned 50 times. But I think it shouldn't worry us as marketers optimizing for ChatGPT, because we've also seen in those data sets that yes, text output might vary, but brands show up over and over again. And at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in we have to optimize for a more objective experience, and every one of us has a very personalized experience with ChatGPT. And this is definitely a good thing for us as consumers, but it's not something we as brands can optimize for, because we want to optimize for the most neutral experience, the most neutral AI response, taking away all of those personalization factors. Maybe in the future, we're going to move into a direction where we can optimize for those personalization factors. But even if you think about AI mode, for example, who now has access to your Gmail inbox and to your calendar, there's no way for us to replicate that on scale, right? I hope nobody else has access to your Gmail inbox or to your calendar. So it's not something that we as a monitoring tool aim to replicate. And I don't think it should be anyone's goal to replicate that on scale, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Give me, maybe everybody in this group, I see very engaged chats. What's your sentiment? What's everybody's doing right now in terms of optimizing for higher brand visibility, higher website citations? Are you already optimizing for that? Maybe on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 meaning I'm not doing anything. 5, I'm an expert in this. I've been doing this for weeks and months. What's everyone's sentiment? Give me some feedback and some reaction to that.
Yeah, it depends. It's more top of mind, and having a tool like Otterly, I find like having just any kind of dashboard like that becomes really helpful. I'm also curious, Tom, because I started this more because it's going from passion project to work project where I'm using vibe coding more. Like, do you think that like more and more the best practices will start getting built in, and even like to the Wixes and Squarespaces and things like that? Like when can we start? Ideally just like flipping a couple of switches and having access to more of this.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because SEO tools have been rather detached from content itself, right? So there's I don't know any good, let's say good native integration between SEO tools and content hubs, CMS providers. But I think that's the exciting piece there. I think that's changing with AI search. And I've I mean, we are tech partners of some page builders and some CMS companies, and I think we're gonna see also more analytics capabilities being built by those page builders by default into their core offering. If I think about Wix, Squarespace, Webflow, WordPress, and all those CMS companies, right? I do think that some CMS companies, and I've worked in CMS companies for the last 6 years, they built that natively. Others will team up with companies like ours with integrations and apps in that sense. But I think ultimately one of the things I've been realizing over the last years is, and I'm a big believer in content marketing and educating through leadership content and authoritative content. I've been realizing that many content teams are very detached from performance metrics. How is my content performing on my website, on Google, on the internet, but also on ChatGPT? And yes, I think we're going to see more integrations, but also more core analytics offerings in those page builders and tools.
It was great. Well, also, you've been doing well not to plug Otterly much, but I will say, like, I first started using it because you've got a 2-week trial and it's just like very easy. You know, if you haven't used anything like it, then this is also something where I mean, my first time was actually, I was just going to give a talk on something related to GEO, and found it so helpful to have a relevant screenshot that's specifically for that conference. So I'm sure you appreciate paying customers even more, but even if someone's just trying to go and learn a bit how this stuff works, you make it pretty easy for someone to just get started, try a few things, and it doesn't take a lot to go and at least start getting something out of it. So appreciate that. Any other good ways for folks to get in touch with you, or
Yeah, no, thanks for mentioning that, David. So yes, we do have a free trial. Anyone can run a couple of queries totally for free and audit your website for geo readiness. And yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Let's connect on LinkedIn. I'll spend way too much time on LinkedIn, so hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm an open book, and I'd love to keep the conversation going.
Well, this is great. Well, appreciate just it's fun following the side conversations in chat, and everyone have a lot of answers for each other, and great to see so many builders here and creating so many of the things where GEO and having good dashboards for it will come in handy. As you have more research coming out, things like that, we welcome you coming in and continuing to share that, because we're all just trying to learn here together. So appreciate you joining us and being part of this community.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invite, David. Looking forward to our next chats. Thanks, everybody.
For sure.